Dear participants, on behalf of ITL and of the SULPiTER partners, welcome to the first SULPiTER Transnational Open Training event. As you know, SULPiTER stands for Sustainable Urban Logistic Planning to Enhance Regional Freight Transport. It is an Interreg Central Europe project and have 14 partners working on 7 functional urban areas in order to develop their own sustainable urban logistic plans with a wider approach than the classic city logistics approach. This project started last year in June 2016 and will end in 2019. This is one of the most important activities developed within SULPiTER, so the training activities, which we decided to make them open and not only for SULPiTER project partners. First of all, to apologize for those of you which received the link for this webinar just a couple of minutes ago, because we had some problems with our email addresses, of course, in time with this webinar. City logistics is the functional urban area concept is focused on in 3 main categories. We have 3 main field which we have to take into consideration. So the functional transport and economic relations between the inner center and the rest of the territory, and the functional transport economic relations within the FUA, which is not affecting the downtown. So we can consider transport in 3 main categories: the intermodal transport, which is linked to medium-long distances, B2B and B2C short distances, which are flows not optimized, and the classical city logistics solutions, which is dealing with congestion and pollution in historical centers. We are focused in the second one, so in the short distance in the extra-urban areas. SULPiTER is focused on 3 main activities. The first is the understanding, and it is based on, for sure, in this webinar, so learning and training. During the past months, SULPiTER partners analyzed the EU trends, and the objective of this webinar. And partners now are focused on local analysis with the support of a complex tool in order to identify the transport demand generated by each functional urban area. The second part is related to the participatory process with the activation of a freight quality partnership in each functional urban area. And the last part, which is going to be activated later on this year, is the working on the sustainable urban logistic plan. Urban freight is a relevant problem for cities from years. So different solutions have been proposed in the past years with public actions which were focused on restrictions, on management of flows, etc. But urban freight is still a problem, and new action and new approaches are needed. For these reasons, public administrations need a different approach based on 3 fundamental pillars: the identification of trends, the selection of best practices, and the evaluation of possible scenarios. This webinar is not only for public authorities, but also useful for logistics providers, logistics users, and research organizations. What is the road to the training, to this webinar? This is the result of 2 important studies, the desk work and the DELPHI. A third study was also used to make some concrete example, which is the benchmark analysis on city logistics measures. The desk work is carried out by University of Maribor with the aim to identify and summarize freight transport trends and to make also some additional assessment based on the indication identified in literature. DELPHI analysis is developed by ITL with the support of Sir Davis Cleave. It consists on a survey with more than 60 city logistics experts worldwide and an expert workshop in order to analyze results and they have their opinion. The content of this webinar are based on both studies, and both studies identified the same categories impacting on functional urban areas, which are changing production and consumption, spatial organization, supply chain management and distribution, technologies and equipment. We will be focused on the first two, changing production and consumption and production, and spatial organization today. In particular, today we will analyze all these categories and all these trends. Next week, on the Monday 22 of May at 2 p.m., we will be focused on the remaining two categories, which are supply chain management and distribution, and technologies and equipment. Just few rules for the webinar. We decided to have this webinar as interactive. So during the webinar, you will be asked to answer to some specific questions. Speakers will stop the presentation and you will see the questions on your screen. For each trend, you are asked to vote in terms of importance. So use 1 for very low importance and 5 for highest importance. As for questions for speakers, please write your question in the chat in the right of your screen. We will not give you the voice in order to avoid technical problems. Answers at the end of this webinar, during the conclusions, or written or with a recorded audio after the webinar. The survey, we prepared survey after this webinar, which you will receive tomorrow. You are kindly asked to answer within a couple of days, and as a reward, you will be able to download a list of source and literature which we used for this activity. So I leave the floor to the ILiM colleagues, in particular to Piotr Nowak and Marcin Foltynski for the Institute of Logistics and Warehousing, which will go in deep in each trend. Thank you.
Thank you, Giuseppe. As we were already presented, I just mentioned that here Piotr Nowak, logistics, and then you will hear also my colleague Marcin Foltynski. You have heard that we will today present the two big categories of trends which were surveyed during the SULPiTER project. And the first one is consumption and production. We will present some introduction for the first category, consumption and production, and what we can understand as a consumption is connected with the term of globalization now. It's best defined different ways the final purchase of goods and services. In last 10 or 20 years, in major development in economic growth, globalization, and opening of new markets that have changed now how we consume. We are wealthier and we consume more, so change also our behavior. The most popular term is now individualization. So people believe that individual person can express ourselves to the goods and services chosen and can enjoy the feeling of personal freedom enough, for example, by buying cars or plane travel. On the other hand, production is defined as a process of combining various materials and immaterial products in order to make something new for consumption. This consumer-driven concept resulting in new logistic strategies and calling for respective production with highly optimized and rationalized processes. And now we will present you trends from this category. And the first one, which will be presented, is trend we defined as a production is being brought closer to the end user. And as I mentioned, the globalization is more and more important. So it caused the increased freight flows with distributed production across multiple locations around the world. But on the other hand, just opposite to this trend of globalization, we can see new trend where a number of companies start considering investments closer to the end user, and increasing amounts of production is being brought closer to the final market. So it is it has influence on the logistic processes. One of the examples is best practice we identified as a case of Lenovo and Flex company. Flex is a facility in Hungary and has been a strategic partner to Lenovo for 6 years and is already involved in the production of a range of products of this Lenovo company, including PCs and phones. The move manufacture enterprise products in Europe from China, because as you know, Lenovo China, was allowed to Lenovo to provide the best possible services to European customers and partner base. So the process began in the summer 2016, and as a result, we can see huge optimization of costs and also what we can consider as the influence on functional urban areas is shorter lead times. So in case of this Lenovo, but also other companies, we experience shorter lead times due to this trend. Easier planning of logistic flows. So this planning is easier thanks to that, and it's easier to make also corrections to the shipping plans. Okay, this is what we shortly can say about the desk research in this trend, but we also made this DELPHI research with the expert analysis, and just 2 hints, as we can see on the graph, expected intensity of the trend on city logistics. We can see that experts estimated it very high, and on the other hand, we also see that the experts expect that this trend will be very important for FUAs before 2030. And now let's move to the next trend. It's regional food supply.
Okay, thank you, Piotr. The next trend we would like to discuss is regional food supply. And a powerful local and regional food movement is growing all over the world. And the movement that directly connects consumer with how, where, and whom their food is grown. And it progresses new pathways for rural families to stay on the farm and attract new producers to farming and food related businesses. and the root for the trends were in states, and President Barack Obama says few years ago, over the last 4 years, I've seen a shift. People who have never been on a farm are becoming interested in where their food comes from. Towns and neighborhoods that didn't have regular access to the fresh fruits and vegetables are getting them. And farmers and ranchers are tapping into new markets and keeping more money in their pockets by selling locally. And all across the country, innovative local food business are starting up and staffing up. That was from President of Obama. And what are the key findings for focus urban area? What does it mean, the regional food supply for the city? So the growing importance of these trends results the increase in sales of fresh products outside the big chains like supermarkets. So the most important are local bazaars and small places where the producers are selling their fresh products. So this of course determines the increase in the number of uncoordinated vehicles entering the city. I mean the farmers and ranchers needs to come to the city, of course. And the second finding for the focus urban area is the increase in the importance of direct sale. I mean the retail by farmers and in consumer locations, and of course wholesale market increasing importance for the retailers. And the last but not least, shopping at source at the farm. So it means that the people from the city are going to the farmers to buy directly from the farmers fresh products. So all these factors determine increase in the individual mobility. I mean the increase in number of uncoordinated vehicles. So the next trend is 3D printing.
3D printing is a hot topic, we can say, and even the futurologists claim that it can be the next industrial revolution. But in fact, it has a great influence. It will have great influence on the industry. So manufacturing lead times will be reduced. On the other hand, new designs will be shorter time to the market, and as kind of the result, the demand of will be met more quickly as well. 3D printing can be used to create specialized products. It's also the new kind of approach to the consumption, and this will be also distributed to the households and to the companies, so it will change the logistic processes. 3D printing is a kind of emerging manufacturing technology, but it is prepared by the 3D printers, of course, so it can be the on-site demand, and it has the potential to replace traditional manufacturing in the future for sure. But of course, now we can experience only the first examples of use of it. One of this example is what was done in Netherlands. The company which is planning actually to print the world's first steel bridge tried to build the first bicycle by 3D printer, and it was successful. So it was accompanied by Delft University of Technology, and we can expect that this first trials will in the future will have a big you can say use in companies and in production. So It will influence functional urban areas for sure, because we reduce freight transport in case we will be able to bring something on place, not deliver it. And on the other hand, we'll reduce storage at warehouses and retail outlets. And of course, there will be change because still required will be transport of the raw materials for printing, and on the other hand, manufacturing and distribution of 3D printers. However, it can be very shortly has influence on the processes and the city logistics. So,
okay, next trend is batch size on production. What we can say that the new consumer demands such as hyper customization are changing the manufacturing industry. So the handling of batch size, I mean the only one items in produced, requires from the manufacturers automated production sites and imposes complex new requirements on supply chain. In the future, manufacturing and retail strategies will change to adopt to increase consumer demand for the product personalization. And of course, this will require agile supply chains ready to adapt to changes in time and place of batch size on production. And one of the examples of that trends is a very well-known producer, I mean the Adidas. So Adidas started robotic shoes and introduced manufacturing plant in Germany, and now this factory is running. And the athlete footwear giant shared its first shoe made almost entirely by robots in the 2016, building on the company's long-term plan to add robot-staffed custom shoemaking factories, depth-speak factories, so to its global supply chain. The sportswear company currently outsources the majority of its production to the Far East, to China and other countries in Asia, of course, where the manufactures around 300 million shoes yearly, mostly by hand. And this year, in 2017, in this new robotic facility in Germany, where the company, of course, is based, Adidas plans to finish only 500 prototypes of sports shoes. So clearly, the aim is not to replace the current mass production method anytime soon. But in the longer term, Adidas could benefit from the lower cost of robot-driven factories, which has implication, of course, for manufacturing overall. So if robots can consistently make things faster and, of course, more cheaply, and the advantages of using low-cost labor in emerging markets like China and Brazil potentially disappears. So, of course, companies could start building factories closer to home or to the final customers, to more developed markets like, for example, markets of United States, where there is a higher quotation of workers who could build and maintain robot factories. And what does it mean, the batch size on production for the cities, for the FUA? We can say that the agile supply chains ready to adopt the changes in time and in place, of course, and retail strategies will change, so the production flow in the focus urban area will be definitely different. And new kinds of delivery service will be created within the city. And of course, in totally, we can say that more fragmented transportation of cargo will be, and it means, of course, less coordination as a whole system.
The next trend which will be presented is for sure a very strong one. It's e-commerce. E-commerce due to increasing internet penetration in over last decades and also popularity of mobile phones and other technologies, this double-digit growth over last year. So allow more take a part in defining e-logistics, what suits better to consumers, and it's more power to dedicate the last mile need to be organized. So this trend of e-commerce will become a logistic service provider main challenge for the future. Transport goods will be delivered to the customers' homes rather than to retail stores, and it will increase the number of freight movements. Size of the deliveries also will change. So increase the number of freight movements will be even larger. What we can see as a kind of an example of this transition is what is happening now in Walmart. Walmart is seeing very strong competition from the Amazon company, so they are changing the way of selling goods. E-commerce is more and more important for them. They have in their strategy quite significant changes, so they are increasing the assortment online. It was 1 million in 2009, and now we have 8 million articles in internet, the offer of this company. They introduced online grocery as Amazon did. They have Prime-like subscription service, also very similar to Amazon. And they even raised the salary for staff to motivate them to know better the products and the offer in the internet. So the biggest player in the United States is evidence that trend is very important and very strong, and is changing also logistics. How it's changing city logistics and FUAs. For sure, there will be increase of the freight volumes, as was mentioned, and also significant growth of reverse logistics. Also, it will be important to use these environmental friendly vehicles, and also what we can see, for example, here in Poland, the importance of parcel lockers is increasing very fast. Also, the importance of transport courier companies is higher. Now let's move to the next trend. We need to present also the result of the experts DELPHI survey. As you can see, all experts see the great potential in this trend. It will be very strong, very fast. The influence will be seen before 2030, sure. And now we can move to the next trend.
Okay, so the sixth trend within the consumption and production group is the sharing economy. And according to the DHL Trend Radar report, we can say that we have two variants of the sharing economy. So the first one is collaborative consumption, dedicated for the consumer-to-consumer networks. And the second one is collaborative business, dedicated for the business-to-business model. And the first one, collaborative consumption, refers to the class of economic arrangement in which participants share access to products or services rather than having individual ownership, and it's facilitated by the internet and, of course, very modern mobile technology. And the second one, collaborative business, involves sharing logistics infrastructure and services within competitors. In this way, new business models for logistics service providers and companies arise, again supported and enabled by new online and digital sharing platforms. And as a best practice, we can present the cooperation of two very well known companies. I mean the Procter and Gamble, detergents and washing powders producers, and the company Tupperware, the producer of preparation, storage, containment, and serving products for the kitchen and home. These companies a few years ago decided to start collaborate on product shared distribution. What does it mean? That means cargo of both companies in one truck. The combination of cargo from two companies, from the Procter & Gamble and from the Tupperware. So light goods from the Tupperware, it means only 25% of the weight limit of the full truck. If we are talking about the Procter & Gamble heavy goods, it's only 40% of the volume limit of the full truck. And you can see on the slides on the screen the other best practice examples. I mean, for example, Uber, very well known, very much discussed within the countries, and the others. And what does it mean, the sharing economy for the city, for the focus urban area? It means sharing assets and capacities may result, of course, increased consolidation and the higher capacity utilization, which of course may reduce the number of freight movements within the city, and the reduction the fleet size, and reduction, of course, the empty travel, and the number of private vehicles, reductions resulting from the sharing of vehicles by a larger group of users. And in the final conclusion, we can say that it results the reduction of congestion and pollution, and reduced consumption, in effect less waste. If we are talking about the findings from the DELPHI survey, we can say that the overall assessments of the expert panel was the development of sharing economy trend will have the moderate impact on the urban logistics, and this trend will be widely used in the medium run, more probably before the year 2030.
The next trend is circular economy, and before we had traditional linear economy model, what we can see as a model described as make, use, and dispose. And now the growing business movement we can see was the circular economy, which can be alternative. And in this model, we strive to keep resources in use for as long as it is possible and extract maximum value from them while in use. So we can recover, generate products and materials, and at the end of service life. So a very good example of this process and this trend is Nespresso and its strategy of reuse these capsules for coffee. And they cooperate with UPS. UPS plays here a very important role. Consumer can drop off prepaid recycling bags with these coffee capsules used already at one of the 88,000 UPS drop-off locations, and then give also to UPS drivers. And what is happening next? The Nespresso capsules are then collected in the consolidation facilities, and coffee is grounded, and aluminum capsules are separated. Aluminum is melted down and used again for these new capsules, and spent coffee grounds are composed into high-quality soil amendments, and then go to landscapers, gardener centers, and municipalities or homeowners. So what does it mean for city logistics and for fuels? It, of course, means that the growing importance is dedicated to reverse logistics. And logistics plays a critical role in success of this trend, you can say. As e-commerce and just-in-time delivery strategies have grown, so the last mile challenge to deliver products to the consumer, and that's why logistics can offer customers big value and convenient take-back model. So in case we will master the approach how logistics can be organized in this circular economy, it will cause success of this model, or it will not manage, or success will be not in place.
And last but not least, within the consumption and production group is demographic trends. I mean the gray power logistics, and it's a very big challenge not only for the city logistics, but of course for the macroeconomic in the whole Europe and the other countries. So we can say that population aging will become one of the key driver for of demographic trends in Europe in the perspective of several decades. So we are facing new demand aging of the population. So I mean the elder people now it's quite popular and significant that elder people discover the convenience, for example, of internet ordering. So according to the DHL forecast, Grey Power Logistics, that it's the logistics for an aging society is likely to drive consuming and logistics. And if we are talking about the best practice dedicated for the Grey Power Logistics, it's a project under the Fraunhofer Institute. It's the platform for healthcare products that focuses on the requirements of elder people. So within this project, senior can, for example, indicate their mobility impairments of the needs of their neighbors who are allowed to accept deliveries. So all these parameters are improved to the quality of deliveries as the result for the logistics service providers. And in the background of this platform, which is so-called control center, it's the suppliers where the suppliers organize and coordinate the delivery to the final destination. As I said before, the platform is this platform is the project, and the platform it's a pilot in Dortmund, which is approximately 600 inhabitants in the rural district. So the system for now worked very well, but could not be operated economically within the participants, only for the local partners. So for now, consumers are not prepared to pay any addition for the final delivery. But for other bigger players, for example, like health insurance company, such a platform still remains very interesting as a future trend. And what are the key findings for urban logistics? So, of course, we can say that new logistics services will appear. I mean, the more home delivery service will be scheduled. These services could be provided under control temperature, and it will be affected by the delivery of medicines to the final consumers. The other findings for the city, for the urban logistics, is the preventive care supported, of course, by logistics, and we will need in the future especially trained delivery employees, which will be responsible for the home visiting to the older people. And of course, new value-added last mile services will appear, such as parcel pickup, for example, home delivery of medicine, groceries, and in general, we can say the services dedicated health check. And if we are talking about the findings coming from the DELPHI study, we can say that the assessments of the expert panel was that the development of the grey power logistics will have a very high impact on Okay, I heard from my IT department colleagues that we have some technical problems, so I will repeat few last sentences. So to sum up gray power logistics trend, we can say that according to the Delphi findings, the assessment of the expert panel was that development of the gray power logistics will have a very high impact on urban logistics and will be widely used in the medium run, more probably before 2030.
Okay. Now we have finished presentation of this first category of trends, consumption and production, and we would like to invite you for 1 minute for interactive part. And one again, we would like to repeat the interactive part rules. So you will see in a moment questionnaire. So at the beginning, please indicate category of your organization, and then you are asked to vote in terms of importance of each trend in this category, consumption and production. You can use numbers from 1 to 5, when 1 is very low importance for you and the highest importance is 5. Let's move to the next slide, which is sum up of the first part, consumption and production. You can see all trends gathered together, and stars beside the names means the importance of the trend from low to high, and also expected significance for future. You can see production closer to the end user, this trend, and also e-commerce are the most important ones in terms of significance and power to influence the FUAs. On the other hand, also e-commerce is happening now, so you can see 2 stars in this box. All other trends are also important, but the significance and influence on FUAs is a little bit later visible, so maybe in 5 years it will be more powerful. This is a short sum up of this category, consumption and production, which was already presented. Now we can move to the second part of our webinar devoted to the spatial organization.
Okay, the second category of trends which we would like to discuss together with you, it's coming from the spatial organization. As you can see on the screen, within this category we will have 10 specific trends which will be discussed later on. As an introduction, we can say that regions are commonly organized along the interdependent set of cities, forming what is often referred as an urban system. So the key spatial foundation of an urban system is based on a series of market areas, which are a function of the level of activity of each center in relation with a friction of distance. So the spatial structure of most regions can be subdivided in 3 basic components. The first one is a set of locations of specialized industries, for example, manufacturing, producing, which tend to group into agglomerations according to the location factors such as raw materials, labor, markets, and the others. The second one is a set of service industry location, including, for example, administration, finance, retail, wholesale, and other similar services, which tend to agglomerate in a system of central places, like cities, providing optimal accessibility to labor or potential customer. And the third one, it's a pattern of transport nodes and links such as road, railways, ports, and airports, which services major centers of economic activities. So jointly, these 3 components define the spatial order of a region, mostly its organization as in a hierarchy of relationship involving, of course, flow of people, flow of information. So we can say more or less well-defined urban systems, especially translate such development. So many conceptual models have been proposed to explain the relationship between the transport, urban system, and regional development, the core periphery stages of development, and the network expansion being among these. So the majority of Central European freight has its origin and destination within the functional urban areas, and of course road transport is still the prevalent mode of moving freight over the short distance. With, of course, it's the major problem of poorly utilized vehicles and empty runnings. Okay, so let's move to the first trends within the spatial organization.
The first trend we would like to present is logistics sprawl. As you notice in your cities, urban place in cities is becoming increasingly scarce resource with many different users competing for these resources. So it caused that the prices are very high and industrial land in inner city becomes more expensive. So rapidly rising land prices, increasing traffic congestion in urban areas, forced companies to build warehouses, reallocate warehouses to locations outside the city. In addition, high urban land prices encourage retailers and other users of commercial floor space to limit storage space in their premises, converting for activities which will provide better financial returns. This has led to the suburbanization of warehousing, and this phenomenon we can call as a logistics sprawl. One of the very good examples of this trend and process is the case of city of Paris. So logistics sprawl in Paris. Logistics sprawl has been quite important in the last 30 years in this city. Terminals that were used for freight transport and logistic activities in 70s and 80s have disappeared from Paris and are now close to the city, but outside of the center. Economic activities in general have not dispersed as much as logistic facilities. So that has increased distances for delivery trucks to reach destinations, adding a lot of vehicle kilometers to regional traffic. And for this case in Paris, for less than truck loads and parcel transport services, it was calculated that more than 60,000 tons of CO2 every year are directly generated by this phenomenon, this trend of logistics sprawl. So for sure it has a significant meaning for us because it's increased congestion. It also increased the significance of night deliveries for large vehicles. It's very important to regulate commercial traffic in the city. This traffic from the warehouses on the outskirts of the city, and also local harmonization of delivery rules becoming more and more important. Open issue, alternative way of delivery is in this case also alternative way of transport like rail or river where it is possible. Okay, we can then.
Okay, so let's move to the second trend. I mean the spatial centralization of stock holding. So spatial centralization of stock holding has been adopted by many manufacturers and retailers in order to achieve cost savings in their supply chain, resulting in an increase in the use of fewer large-scale national and regional distribution centers that serve a far larger geographical area. And of course, this centralization has been made possible by the development of the motorway network and other transport infrastructure, which allows companies to have fewer stock holding points by locating extremely large warehouses at strategic points with good accessibility to their hinterlands. So consequently, the urban areas are supplied from these large centers, this increasing deliveries to urban centers, whereas smaller distribution centers within urban areas have been disconnected. And if you are talking about the best practice, we can say that Poland, located in the real city center, geographically, I mean, makes it as a transit hub between the west and east and north and south of Eastern Europe. That's why this process accelerated significantly recently, partially on the back of improving quality of transport infrastructure. So Łódź North Junction, I don't know if you are familiar. Łódź is the city, one of the biggest one in Poland, located centrally in the Poland, on the junction of two motorways, A1, which is going from north to south, and A2, which is going from Berlin to Moscow. So this motorways and these situations turns Stryków and Stryków, the city located nearby Łódź, into the one of the most important locations in this part of Europe. So such an interactive location, it's a magnet for the investors, especially from the logistics sector, who locate their distribution centers on a mass scale. So we can, I can provide you some very well-known brands, like for example Castorama, Leroy Merlin, Raven, or the others, producers, distributors, and logistics service provider, which decided to locate the warehouses and the logistics infrastructure in that places. So coming to the key findings for functional urban area, we can say that the spatial and structural changes in the location of logistics facilities have altered the geographically of freight in urban areas, and of course increase of the role of good connection of the city to the national transport network, especially to the road network, and increase need a certain of clear rules for the deliveries to the functional urban areas. So I mean the time window or the others regulation which will help to enter the city.
The next important trend for the FUAs we surveyed was spatial planning coupled with coherent spatial and transport policy. By concentrating on FUAs, three relevant levers, we understood international accessibility, connectivity between FUAs, and connectivity within FUAs. While the first two represent priorities on national level and need to be coherent with European TNT plans, the third one, regional connectivity and accessibility, is or should be the responsibility of the FUA itself. So here the voluntary cooperation should play the main part, together with a more formal cooperation. Improving accessibility for different modes of transport is a basic requirement for further economic development. Furthermore, as spatial planning determines businesses' site locations, it has major contribution to regional attractiveness. What we can present as a kind of the best practice in developing this trend is a case of Netherlands, where spatial planning policy and its implementation is so far as possible shaped at the municipal level. The municipalities are able to set appropriate regulation on the knowledge on the local situation. The state focuses on the subjects that are important of the entire country, such as improving accessibility of the region. And sustainable development policy is to combine that also land use, transport, and environmental policies. So centralize where necessary and rather decentralize when possible. It is the approach of Netherlands, and it works very well. What are the key findings for us from this trend? It's the FUA level planning and strategy development needs trust between the municipalities, so this is very important. Special cooperation instruments and promise on appropriate use of the development plans is very high significance. And what is also very important is horizontal and vertical institutional cooperation. So strategy development needs trust between stakeholders. It is a case of Netherlands, and it is very important to big influence of this trend on the development of FUAs. So citizens and stakeholders also need to participate in the process and collaborate strongly. And we asked also experts what they think about this trend and its significance. And what you can see on this chart is that 25% see the middle significance and strength of this trend, and 40% of the experts see that it is very important, and the highest importance is seen by 1/5 of the experts. And impact time horizon is also expected before 2030. So we can expect that this coherent spatial transport policy will be significant in the time horizon of next 12, 13 years, and development will be significant in this matter.
And the fourth trend is urban distribution and consolidation center. It's a widely adopted practice to tackle the last mile distribution problem in within the city. So urban consolidation center is a logistics facility for the last mile collection and distribution of goods, which is situated next to the urban area that it serves. And of course, urban consolidation centers are used by a large freight transport service providers for operational purpose in new cities, functioning as a junction between urban and interurban parts of the transport chain. As a best practice and an example of urban consolidation center introduction, we can have Lucca. Lucca is the city in Italy, in Tuscany, with a population of about 80,000 inhabitants and area just over 150 square kilometers. So Lucca Historic Center and surrounding areas actually represents the core of an active commercial system with more than 100 and 500 activities, with a great variety of commercials, artisans, professionals, activities. So moreover, the offices of the main public authorities are localized also into the historic city center. So taking into consideration this active economic context contributes to the high number of commercial vehicles for the freight distribution exceeding the historic city center per day, bringing, of course, the negative impact, both directly and indirectly, on the urban environment due to the air and noise pollution, traffic congestion, especially in the rush hours. So, for example, approximately within the hours 8 in the morning and 8 o'clock in the morning and 8 o'clock in the evening, so I mean the 12 hours, approximately 1,300 vehicles have access to the historical city center. So this all findings and situation makes that they decided as a local authorities to establish some logistics facilities dedicated for the logistics to improve the situation. So the key local logistics infrastructure is an urban consolidation center, which provides the services to support last mile deliveries to the city center, to the companies. And Luka Port, it's the name of this facility, provides all type of urban consolidation services. I mean that they support cooperation between the long and mid-range freight operators and the local distributors, actors, including the transshipment of goods at the local Luka Port logistics platform, organization of best possible operation, I mean the load consolidation, and the final transport, which is doing by the fully electric vehicles. And if you are talking about the key findings for focus urban area coming from the urban consolidation center, we can say in general it means the reduction in greenhouse emissions and this consolidation of loads, which taking place within the urban consolidation centers, mean the highest load factor. For example, within the Luka, each of the truck, small truck, is coming to the city center, has a load factor at the level of 90%, even more. Coming to the DELPHI study, we can say that the overall assessment of the expert panel was that development of urban distribution and consolidation centers will have the moderate impact on urban logistics, and it will be widely used in the medium run, more probably before the year 2030.
The next trend we would like to present is somehow related to the consolidation centers because it's specific for construction. So construction consolidation center operates much like a regional distribution center. It's specifically located and geared to service the needs of urban area with tight logistical constraints. In construction consolidation center, multiply bulk materials deliveries are stored and transported to construction sites. What we can present as a best example of such a construction consolidation center is a program developed in London in the past. It's a program developed by Transport for London. It was the construction logistics program aimed to improve the coordination and collaboration between different constructors, and what we can present as examples where it was used. It was used during the preparation to the Olympics Games in the London Olympics developments, and also during the construction of Heathrow Terminal 5. So such a construction consolidation centers were built and tested. It improved the coordination, collaboration, and sustainability of the logistics of this construction sites. Also, the efficiency and planning was improved, and so the influence on FUAs we can expect is a significant reduction based on these examples from London, for example. For example, we can see that the significant reduction in the number of vehicles can be observed, reduction in supply journeys times, high delivery reliability for the construction sites. Everything is checked twice, and is thanks to that better just-in-time delivery, increase the productivity of the labor force, and also reduction of CO2 emissions is seen as the result of construction consolidation centers. Now we can move to the next trend.
So the sixth trend is multi-story logistics facilities in dense areas. So in Japan or Hong Kong, large multi-story logistics facilities have been developed in dense areas of the largest conurbations. In Europe, in Paris, the largest current logistics development project is Chapel International. It's a three-story 45,000 square meters facility mixing logistics activities and other types of activities as data center, offices, sport, urban agriculture located within the Paris First Ring Road. If we are talking about the best practice in the United States, very well known Amazon's new faster delivery services require the company to use warehouses which are located very close to the major consumer markets. So, for example, in New York City, Amazon has set up 5,000 square meters distribution center on the 5th floor of a Manhattan building, which is located on the 37th Street on the Manhattan Island. Let's come to the key findings for functional urban area. Multi-story logistics facilities impacts depends mainly on the extent to which it can increase truck usage, which is influenced by the nature of goods, the transporters, and the local density. And benefits can be seen in a speed of deliveries and consolidation of loads, as well as providing some reduction in greenhouse emissions. And of course, what was mentioned before, the increasing role of e-commerce will influence of multi-story logistics facility growth in functional urban areas.
The next trend is strongly connected to the e-commerce phenomenon and trend, and what we can name as the pickup points are the locations where customers can pick up their orders simply. We can see the huge significance of this trend in Poland because it's becoming more and more popular. Everybody is using it because these lockers can be also attended or unattended, can gather different kinds of parcels. We have different examples of such services in different countries in Europe, e-box in France and DHL Pack Station in Germany. We have also our example, very successful InPost company, and this example is also successful not only in Poland but in the United Kingdom, where InPost has a national network of fully automated parcel lockers accessible 24 hours a day, and that means simply no quiz and waiting for the parcel. It works very fast. In principle, I am the customer, so I know what I'm saying. And all points in case of UK, 2,100 lockers are located in variety points, safe and secure, gas station, supermarkets, and also the points of transport for London services. And also in a place like Toys R Us shops. So very different locations, very conveniently located. In companion with the e-commerce trend, it will have and it has also now very big influence on the FUA because of the reduction of deliveries to the houses, to the offices, also popularity of the solution connected with e-commerce popularity, and it is also a good answer for the last mile delivery problem. Solution is environmentally friendly and is also transport planning policy should include incentives for such solutions like this pickup points because it's very effective and is strongly in use now. Okay.
The next trend is dedicated for the integration of public and freight transport network. Combining people and freight flows has the potential to lead the improved operations, as the transportation needs can be met with fewer vehicles and drivers. Specifically, using different people-based modalities for freight flows, for example, using spare capacity in public transport systems like rail, buses, or subway for retail store replenishment. In many cities, metro buses and trams travel in a fine-mazed urban network. The start and the end of their tours are usually in the middle of the city. And I think that the best well-known best practice is the cleaner cargo distribution in Dresden. In the late 90s, Volkswagen had the idea to build a transparent factory in Dresden to make the production of cars visible for the public as an event. Precondition to realize this project was to adequate manufacturing site near the city center and at the old town. So the new factory also required the distribution center. Since 2001, the goods transporting cargo tram has been used. So it doesn't interfere with the passenger transportation. Its schedule, the schedule is coordinated with those of passenger transportation. So company DELPHI is responsible for the control of both systems for the Volkswagen factory and for the passengers. And the tram operates every 30 minutes, and it takes 25 minutes to connect the logistics center and the factory. And the distance from the logistics facility to the factory is less than 5 kilometers. And what are the key findings for functional urban area? Definitely, the integration of public and freight transport system may result in easier logistics management within the city, and it can help to increase the reliability of deliveries. And of course, it has quite big influence on safer and more reliable transport. So, in general, it's not a very easy project. It's not very well introduced within the European cities. For example, the cargo tram is not only in Dresden but in the other city in Switzerland. It needs definitely involvement and engagement or a lot of stakeholders, like it was in case of Volkswagen in Dresden.
Another example of trend significant for FUA is management of logistic transshipment facilities. So this competition we can see on the streets amongst cars, vans, delivery vehicles, and pedestrians is becoming intensive and more intensive, and making better use of this capacity of lanes is a very important issue for urban pride and for finding smarter solutions to share space in the cities. And one of the very good example how we can manage this example is Barcelona and this multi-lanes in Barcelona. To reduce effects of increasing traffic in the commercial center of Barcelona, municipality have implemented a new street use management system, and 7 multifunctional lanes exist even today in Barcelona with VMS, variable message sign system technology. It is something where lanes are used in the morning in peak hours for the typical road movement, and then during the day for the deliveries, and again in the night for parking and for the regular movement of cars. So this solution need to be very strongly supported by municipality, of course, because municipality is the key stakeholder with the strongest interest in using, in introducing that solution. As Barcelona case is showing, the legal basis is needed. Critical success factor is enforcement and effective control, and existing road network must be wide enough, so there must be conditions to implement such a solution.
And the last but not least trend is direct injection. Direct injection is where orders from multiple customers are aggregated for the first leg of their journey and then put directly into the parcel carrier network for the final delivery. Direct injection brings goods directly into the city using alternative mass transportation, for example, ships or freight trains, after which vans and other last mile delivery transportation means must cover only very short distances to the final destinations. And as a best practice, we can present and we can discuss the Monoprix. And Monoprix is a large French distribution group which has reorganized its logistics supply chain from road to rail for the incoming products of its 62 supermarkets in Paris. So before the trial, Monoprix delivered its 62 supermarkets in Paris by trucks from a terminal which is located 35 kilometers south of Paris. Now, with the using of rail, the goods are moved to a rail terminal located within Paris Bercy station, which is located on the east, and the final deliveries to the supermarkets are made by the compressed natural gas filled trucks. And today, a weekday train with 20 wagons arrives late in the evening to Paris to the transshipment point, and in the next morning, this friendly friendly trucks are deliver goods to the final destination. And the railroad intermodal depot is used only for the transshipment with no other logistics capacities. And if we are talking about this case, after 15 months after the beginning, the pollution reduction provided proved by was very significant. For example, 25% reduction of carbon dioxide, 7% of carbon monoxide, 50% of nitrogen oxide, and 16% of particularities. So the environmental findings were very impressed. Okay, so now it's time for voting. The rules are the same, so please, at the beginning, please indicate category of your organization, and then please show us the importance for each trend on a spatial organization within the spatial organization category. And it was mentioned before, you can use for each trend the number from 1 to 5, where 1 means very low importance for you and 5 the highest importance.
Okay. Now we can move. After the sum up. You can now see this the slide with the sum up of the second category, the category of the spatial organization. And you will also have opportunity to see it afterwards. But Now we would like to sum up the voting and what are the results and your opinion about the significance of trends. So at the beginning, we would like to display on your screens the results of the first voting. So the voting about the category consumption and production, and Marcin will comment the results.
So as you can see, we most of the voters coming from the authority, 33%. We have also 8% of representatives coming from the business sector, and 20% coming from the researchers, and 16% coming from the others sector. If we are talking about the first trend, which was dedicated for the production closer to the end user, as you can see, the situation is quite similar, and the opinion was your opinion means that this trend has important and very important for the voters. The second one, dedicated for the regional food supply, you decided that this trend, more or less 30% of you decided that it has the very high importance. And 3D printing, very new concept. You decided that it's moderate for you, but size and production, it's also moderate. E-commerce, economic growth, it's quite obvious, very important and important in total. Sharing economy was moderate for you according to your voting. Circular economy, high importance according to the 37% of votes. And the last but not least, grey power trends, moderate, high importance, and very high importance, in total more or less 80%. Okay, so now let's move to the second voting. Okay, now you have 75% of you has finished the voting for now, and let's move to the first trend, logistics pro. 45%, a very high importance for that trend. Special centralization of stock holding, less than 40%, high importance. Special planning coupled with coherent spatial and transport policy, with also 37% of votes. Urban distribution and consolidation center, very high importance according to you. So half of you decided that it's urban consolidation center has high importance for the city logistics. Construction of that consolidation center has the moderate meaning for the voters. Multi-story logistics facilities located in dense areas, moderate and high importance. So 25% of you decided in that way. Integration of public and freight transport networks, the case of Volkswagen, for example, very difficult project, but with a high importance according to you. And trend number 8, management of logistic transshipment facilities, high importance according to the 41% of the voters. Pickup point networks, very much very close with e-commerce concept, with high importance according to you. And last but not least, direct injection, with moderate position, 29%.
So thank you very much for this voting. The results of the voting will be the kind of the conclusion also for our research desk and DELPHI research, and will be used to make it more complex. So thank you very much. And we are closing to the end of the webinar, but we would like to make a short give a floor to Tommy Slavletnik and then Giuseppe Lupino in order to answer some questions you raised during the webinar. So Tommy, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. We received just one question, and concerning in terms of production being brought closer to end user. You made an example of Lenovo. Do you see some sectors being more affected than others by this trend? Of course, so we can call that as an anti-globalization initiatives. So I would say all the production which was moved to Far East and from other parts of Europe, because the low wages of manpower, they are now returning here. And especially because they see that the demand from the customers is getting on the way that they would like to have as quick as possible different color of some materials, a different way of doing some things. So I would see that especially manufacturing will be affected with that. But as presented in these trends, you can also see that the food regional supply. So I would say this trend towards regional supply of customers is very active. Maybe also to comment on the results from my point of view, from my perspective, we saw that they are actually some trends which are showing that the new ways of thinking, new ways of organizing, new ways of production will increase freight flows in functional urban areas. But there are some other trends, they actually will result with decreased freight flows in urban functional areas. So on one side, we have this e-commerce, this logistics sprawl, this batch-size one production, this power logistics, and so on. And on the other side, we have new technologies like 3D printing. We have new options like vertical, horizontal collaboration, consolidation centers, integration of public and freight transport, implementation of pickup points, this sharing economy, this management of transshipment facilities. So we have two parts, and we have to think about in the future, and we have to speed up. And we have to support with public policy measures, consolidation, we have support collaboration, we have support sharing of facilities, sharing of vehicles, and sharing of information. And of course, at the end of the day, integrate everything in order to have the best possible supply chains in the functional urban area. So maybe just as a sum up of what we've heard today. If you have any further questions as it was presented, we will be able to answer that also after the webinar. But for now, I will leave the floor to Giuseppe to give the final conclusions and to invite you to the second webinar.
We have experienced some problems with the microphone of Giuseppe, so I would like to invite you to make an electronic follow-up survey. You will receive the request to do the survey on Wednesday. We'll deliver the link to the electronic survey, and you are kindly asked to answer questions on the survey. It's not very long, so you can you will take 10 minutes and it will be done. We promise the reward for the filling in electronic survey. It will be the list of resources listed and used in SULPiTER research, our research presented today, desk research, and also DELPHI. So it will take not long, only 10 minutes, and then everybody who will do the survey will receive this list of resources. I think, very useful for your further work and to learn more about these trends, important trends for the logistics, city logistics, and FUAs. And last but not least, we would like to invite you for the second part of the webinar, which will take place next week on 22nd of May at 2 p.m. Sharp. We will present the next two categories of trends we surveyed in our two surveys in DELPHI and Desk Research, and it will be supply chain management and distribution, and 8 trends from this category. And very important and interesting also category of trends, it's technology and equipment, various trends like clean vehicles or Internet of Things, or hot topics like physical internet will be presented, and also you will be asked us today to for the questionnaire, and you will have occasion to ask questions and also to discuss with us this hot topic. So please be invited. We count on you next week on 22nd of May. And in the name of the coordinator of the project and all our partners, we would like to thank you for today's participation in the webinar, and hopefully we deliver you knowledge which will be useful for you in the future in your work in developing of FUAs. So thank you once again, and see you next week on 22nd of May for the second part of the webinar. Thank you very much.